The room felt smaller than it was. White walls, soft lighting, a framed certificate behind the doctor's head. "I'm very sorry," he said gently, "but medically speaking, the chances are extremely low." Silence. Clara stared at the ultrasound monitor that showed nothing. Nothing. Beside her, Daniel tightened his grip around her hand. "How low?" he asked quietly. The doctor hesitated. "Close to impossible. Close to impossible." The words echoed long after they left the OFFICE. Did I end the car? Clara didn't cry. She didn't speak either. She just stared out the window. Daniel glanced at her. "It's okay," he said softly. She nodded. But inside, something had shattered. Ed. The first few months were filled with determination. More tests, more appointments, more hormones, more hope, then more disappointment. Negative, negative, negative. Each time, Clara would lock herself in the bathroom and stare at the test in silence. She stopped buying baby clothes just in case. Stopped following pregnancy announcements. Stopped attending baby showers. She started avoiding mirrors. One night, she whispered something that broke Daniel's heart. "I can't even give you the one thing you deserve." He turned toward her immediately. "I didn't marry you for a child, but you want one. So do you." "That's different," she whispered. "You can't give one. I'm the one who can't." The word "can't" became her identity. Intimacy changed. Not because love disappeared, but because hope did. She started avoiding closeness. Every touch reminded her of what wasn't happening. Every calendar reminder felt like a countdown to disappointment. Daniel tried to hold her. She gently pulled away. "Please, I just can't tonight." He nodded, but he felt her slipping further than physical distance. She began drowning in silent guilt. And guilt is heat. One evening, he found her sitting on the floor of the spare bedroom. The room they once talked about turning into a nursery. Empty. She held a tiny pair of socks she had bought months ago. "I prayed for this since I was a little girl," she whispered. Daniel knelt beside her. "I know. Why would God give me this desire? If he was going to deny it, he didn't have an answer. So he just held her, and for the first time in weeks, she let H in, but the strain grew. Daniel suggested they take a break from treatments. She thought he meant giving up. "You don't understand," she said, frustrated. "If I stop trying, then it's over. If we keep going like this, we might lose more than a dream," he replied softly. She looked at him. "You mean us?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. That night, long after she fell asleep, Daniel sat alone at the kitchen table. Bills spread out, medical paperwork, appointment reminders. He bowed his head. "God, I don't need a miracle as much as I need my wife back." His voice trembled. "She thinks she's broken. She thinks she's less. I don't care if we ever hold a baby in our arms, but I can't watch her disappear." He wiped his eyes. "I trust you, even if this never changes." It was the first time he prayed without asking for a child. He asked for Ace. The next morning, Clara made a decision. No more tracking cycles. No more temperature charts. No more scheduled intimacy. "I'm tired," she said quietly. Daniel nodded. "So am I." They held hands, and for the first time in a long time, they didn't pray for a baby. They prayed for surrender. "Your will, not ours." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was exhausted FA. If weeks passed, something shifted. Without pressure, laughter returned. They took walks again, cooked dinner together, slept close, not because they were trying, but because they were reconnecting. Daniel started leaving small notes on the fridge. "You are enough. You are not broken. You are my miracle." Clara began smiling again, not because the pain vanished, but because love was louder then. At point one afternoon, she felt unusually tired. She blamed stress. Daniel teased her gently. "Maybe you're just finally resting." She laughed. But later that week, something felt different. Not dramatic, just different. She bought a test, not with hope, just to rule it out. She placed it on the bathroom counter, didn't even watch the timer. She walked away. Minutes later, she returned, looked down, and froze. 2 lines. She blinked. No. She grabbed the box. Read it again. 2 lines. Her hands began shaking. She slowly sat on the bathroom floor, not screaming, not jumping, just trembling. Tears fell quietly down her face. Daniel heard a soft sound from the hallway. Clara? No answer. He rushed to the bathroom. She looked up at him. Unable to speak, she simply held out the test. His eyes scanned it. He stopped breathing. Then he sank to his knees, right there on the tile floor, not in shock, in worship. He covered his face. "Thank you," he whispered, over and over. "Thank you." Clara leaned into him. They cried together, not because they finally got what they wanted, but because they never lost each other. Months passed, not quickly, not easily, but beautifully. The nursery that once stood empty was no longer silent. Soft light filtered through the curtains, and in the quiet of the room, Clara sat in the rocking chair, tears gently streaming down her face. Not tears of grief, tears of awe. In her arms, wrapped in a small white blanket, was their miracle. Tiny fingers, soft breaths, a warm weight against her chest. Daniel stood beside her, unable to stop smiling. He reached down and gently touched the baby's hand, and the tiny fingers instinctively wrapped around his. He let out a quiet laugh, half joy, half disbelief. "She's real," he whispered. Clara nodded, unable to speak. All those months of silence, all those negative tests, all those nights of doubt, and now a heartbeat resting against her heart. Daniel leaned down and kissed Clara's forehead. "I told you," he said softly, voice thick with emotion. "You were never broken." She looked up at him, and he was never late. Daniel nodded. No, he wasn't. They said they would never have children, but heaven had the final word. And this time, the room wasn't filled with silence. It was filled with Ife. For God, nothing is impossible. Luke 1 verse 37.